Chapel Hill Denham has listed its Nigerian Infrastructure Debt Fund on the Nigerian Exchange. CNBC Africa's Kenneth Igbomo is with Bolaji Balogun, the Chief Executive Officer of Chapel Hill Denham, and Temi Pupola, the Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Exchange. Ken, do take it away, the highlights of today's listing.
All right, thank you so much, David. Right now we have Bolaji Balogun with us now, just to give us a sense of what's been playing out today at the listing. Thank you so much for your time today, sir. And I'd like you to speak to the significance of this listing. Now you're 9 years in the run now. We're seeing this open up to institutional, to retail investors here. I'd like to speak to the importance of that for this fund.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Firstly, we're deeply honored to list NIDF on the Nigerian Exchange today. NIDF has had a 9-year history. We launched the fund about 7 years ago, listing it originally we launched the fund approximately 7 years ago. At the time that we launched the fund was only primarily available to institutional investors, Nigeria's PFAs, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, institutions such as the African Development Bank, and every time that we've made an offering, we've been selling to a limited group of qualified institutional buyers. Having made 25 consecutive distributions, we feel that NIDF now passes what we might describe as the widows and orphans test. We've gone 7 years, 0 NPLs, on a fairly large diversified portfolio of infrastructure assets. We've returned, in total returns, over 155% to investors. In cash distributions alone, we've returned 86.2%. We're just about to announce our 26th return. And we feel that the time is now right to try to build and expand the retail footprint, for NIDF on the market. What's important about this is really about making infrastructure usually a non-accessible investment asset class to investors, available to a broader range of investors. We've proven that it's an investable asset class in Nigeria. Financing infrastructure in local currency is the only way that you finance infrastructure sustainably. And most importantly, we've demonstrated the strong governance, the strong impact credentials of what we're doing, and I think it's an opportunity now through this listing on the NGX to provide it to a wider orbit of investors.
All right, let me get a take from the CEO of the NGX now, just to understand the significance of this listing for people who are seeing opportunity in this market.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's a few things. A couple of them Mr. Balogun has touched on. But first and foremost, at the heart of it is just really a signal to government, as we've said over the past few weeks, that the capital markets can support a lot of the government agenda. We're all aware that infrastructure is one very key area that the government is trying to finance and to fund. And it's good now to find a mechanism for the capital markets to do that. Now, what this sort of listing does is that it then opens up the entire retail universe of investors, right, to this asset class that historically you would have found more of the institutional qualified institutional investors participating in. Now you have a vehicle that's a bit de-risked in a sense, listed on the exchange like it's equity that retail investors can buy into. So that, I think, is the first real significance of this. The second of it, of course, is around innovation. We've always spoken to how we need to develop new products, new sorts of investment opportunities for investors. Historically, you've had your equity asset class, but how do you innovate within that equity asset class? We think this sort of listing demonstrates that. And then finally, when we look through to what I call the universe of the capital markets, it's good to see a product that I think, as you would find out, nearly all of the pension funds in Nigeria today, except maybe one, are invested in this fund already. It's good to see a product that, the length and breadth of the legal space, the trustees, the asset managers are all a part of this. And I think it adds extra credibility and credence to this product and to this listing.
Yeah, because for some of our listeners, they are quite interested to know your type of your asset allocation strategy, the kind of the projects that you're looking to bring on, and some of the criteria that you look at in that.
So we're financing traditional infrastructure, everything from captive power to renewable energy to transport infrastructure to digital infrastructure. So that includes things like telecoms towers, cables. We're financing even social infrastructure. That includes things like healthcare. It includes things like student accommodation. So this is infrastructure in the traditional sense that you know it. 97% of the portfolio is private sector focused. There's a little bit of it that has some government exposure in it. But I think the most important thing is that we do it using traditional project finance skill sets, and that ensures that we can minimize, the risk in the portfolio. And that's why we're comfortable to offer it to retail investors.
Yeah, because thinking of a next phase for this fund now, what does that look like?
Scale. We will launch, or we're listing today about just around 100 billion of market cap. We will complete Series 9, which we're fundraising on now in about 2 weeks' time. We'll add another 20-odd billion to the market capitalization very quickly. What I'm hoping is that this fund has the ability to raise capital 2 to 3 times a year, because as we find projects, we do all the due diligence, we prepare a project, we go out to raise the capital, and we commit the capital to it. The reality of it is that Nigeria's infrastructure opportunity is a 3-4 trillion naira opportunity annually today at the quality end. And that opportunity is going to grow as population grows in this country, and there isn't sufficient, capital chasing that, particularly domestic capital.
All right, because I'd like to get your thoughts around investor education, especially to new asset classes, especially ones like this that are coming to the market.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. This represents the heart of that kind of question. If you look at this fund we're listed, Nigeria Infrastructure Debt Fund, it sounds like debt, but it's listed like equity. And so right in there is a lot of education that, of course, needs to happen. I think the exchange has very good infrastructure for this. We have our X Academy platform, for example, through which we use to disseminate. We have events like this, the facts behind the listing, which is an opportunity for the fund managers, for the sponsors, to look at investors, to look at the community and educate them further on this. And then, of course, as time goes on, many things around our webinars that we put together, a lot more media type engagement is a lot of the approach that we use to carry this. But overall, I think it's got to be collaborative approach. This is not something that people can look at and say this is sponsored by one broker, right, at the exclusion of everybody else. It's a product that everybody can replicate, and it's one of those where a rising tide will lift all the boats.
Thank you so much for your time today, gentlemen. David, it's over to you now.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. Interesting prospects there. That was CNBC Africa's Kenneth Igbomo speaking with Bolaji Balogun, the Chief Executive Officer of Chapel Hill Denham, and Temi Pupola, the CEO of the Nigerian Exchange, talking about today's listing of Chapel Hill Denham's Nigeria Infrastructure Debt Fund and the prospects ahead.